Hello guys. I don't really know, like usually when I come on here, I don't really know what's going to come out of my mouth, but I really feel compelled to come on and talk about something. Um, Talk about something that I've watched last night and I'm still not okay with it. Um, Last night, although I think it was on a few nights previously, I watched Dispatches. I think it was called Disabled, Trapped and Abused was the name of the program, and I haven't been okay since it, and I don't know if I will ever be okay until this changes. Um, it was talking about how disabled people, men and women, predominantly women, but there was men featured as well, who are more likely to be abused, either in a relationship or by carers or by family members even, than a non-disabled person. And it just really, it breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart. Now I need to say, up front in this, that this is not my lived experience, and thank goodness I am blessed to be in an amazing relationship. I have the most incredible partner, so this is not something. Although in previous to my now marriage, I have had instances in other relationships where things have happened that weren't okay and weren't nice, but thankfully not to the extent that these people who were featured last night on the show were talking about. It was just heart wrenching. And what there was one man in particular who really broke my heart because he was talking about how he was completely immobile at one point where he couldn't move at all, and he was in a relationship with a partner who was bullying him, abusing him, and joking about the fact that the man was terrified, to the point now where he has his house cameraed up. It's like Fort Knox. He's every corner of his house has got a camera, surveillance camera. He just is living under constant fear. But for me, one of the most upsetting parts of the whole story was when he eventually called the police, and he got brought to safety, but the only place that he could go that was suitable for his mobility needs was a, a care home, and the care home was specialised in patients with dementia. So this completely mentally sound, compos mentis, abused, broken individual who just happened to have mobility needs was in a care home for elderly people, and not only elderly people but people with dementia, completely disproportionate to what he needed, but it was the only place that could cater to his mobility needs that was available at the time, and he had to leave his home for his own safety. But he was then stuck in this horrific situation where he was thinking, you know what, at least when I was at home, at least I wasn't trapped in this care home. So it really got me thinking about there's so much. I mean, I've cried, and I've despaired over the fact that as a woman, as a woman with a disability, a physical disability, and as a woman with small kids who has to, we have school runs to do, and we've all those things, and I am blessed to be in this situation. But when something happens, like if for example I have to go for a smear test, it is almost physically impossible for me. Number one, I work full time. Number two, at this minute in time, I don't drive. Number three, we only have a one. Even if I did drive, we only are a one-car family. So if I was to drive to the hospital, then my kids can't be collected from school. When I do get to the hospital, um, I need physical help to get onto the bed, to prepare myself for the test, and all of these things. So being honest, hand on heart, I've cancelled smear tests. I've cancelled exploratory scans and things that I have needed for my health because I physically can't do it. And that made me think about how many other women, how many other disabled women are in similar or worse situations to me, cancelling medical appointments because they physically can't get there, or if they can get there, there is no facilities that are suitable for them and no support and help for them to have the test done. And there is this whole thing of, oh my god, it just opens up such a can of worms, and I really feel passionately that we need to start a conversation around this. We need to speak out about this because it is just not okay. And you know, there's the whole thing of, well, people with disabilities and women with disabilities, well, 9 out of 10 of them, I don't know what the statistic is or what the perception of statistics are, but it's like, well, they're not going to be in physical relationships, so therefore sexual health and smear tests and, you know, body well-being is not so much of a thing. And it's just not an issue or not something that's important, but it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And then you're in the situation then when like myself, when you are fortunate enough and blessed enough to be in a relationship, and then you're thinking, okay, so I want to make a life with this person, and I want to you know, start a family and have a normal relationship with this person, then you are, I think it's something like 7 out of, what was the statistic? 7 out of, I can't remember. I think it was something like disabled people are 7 times more likely to be in an abusive relationship than a non-disabled person, which is insane when you think about it. But there's this perception of, when, especially if it's a non-disabled person in a relationship with a disabled person, that somehow they're some sort of saint who is like dumbing down their life, or sacrificing their life to be with this disabled person. And to be brutally honest, I've had that attitude from friends and even family members who's like, oh, you know, if I have an argument with my partner, my husband, and I bitch about him, as all women do. I think as all relationships, we all bitch at some point or another. And if I say anything about it to close friends, confidants, family members, and it's like, oh, don't say anything about him because, you know, you're lucky to have him. And I've even had someone who I love dearly, who I absolutely worship the ground they walk on, who are like part of my heart, say to me, don't say anything about him because you're lucky that he took you on. And it's like, it's that whole thing of burden again, that whole, you know, oh, well, I'm a burden and this person has sacrificed a big part of their life to be with me, so I have to be eternally grateful. And as a result, I have to put up with any crap that they throw at me. Now, like I say, my relationship is very healthy, we're very equal, and we have amazing communication, we love each other very, very much, and I am in no way abused. I need to be totally upfront about that. But my point is, if it was an abusive relationship, then, and I did feel strong and comfortable and brave enough to speak out about it, even my close circle, that's the attitude that I met with. So it's like, how would I even, for anyone in an abusive relationship, how would you even start to break through that, to say, you know what, the way I'm being treated is not okay? And then the other side of it is, when you're in a, although I hate this word, vulnerable situation, and you need help with like things like personal care, the boundaries become very, very blurred. And it's like, what is okay and what is abuse? And it really is, it's just something that's not spoken about. It's a big thing. And all of the disabled women who spoke out last night on this programme were saying that there was so many red flags early on in their relationships that they ignored, that they pushed to the back of their mind, because they were thinking, number one, I am lucky that this person wants to be with me because I am a broken, flawed, faulty individual. I am disabled. I am flawed. I am not desirable. So the fact that this person wants to be with me, then I need to be grateful and focus on the gratitude. and ignore the red flags, ignore the things that are not okay, that are upsetting my inner peace, and you know, push that to one side and tolerate more than I would as an able-bodied person. And that's not okay either, because as I say, in previous relationships I've had that. I've had situations where, obviously I'm not going to name any names, but a previous partner, we were in a music store, and we had an argument in the music store, and I was using like a stick to walk back then, and I also then had his arm, so I was linking his arm. We had a disagreement in the music store, and I was holding on to the shelf in the music store looking at something, and so I had my stick in one hand, I was holding on to the shelf, and he decided that he didn't want to be around me in that moment. 'Cause we were having an argument, and he walked out of the store and left me clinging to the shelf, like terrified that I was going to fall over. And he left me there for somewhere, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I'm not sure, but it felt like an eternity. It felt like hours. And he eventually came back in, and he said something along the lines of, maybe next time you'll rethink your behaviour. I hope that's given you time to rethink your behaviour, or something along those lines. And I was petrified, but again, I was so grateful that he'd come back, so grateful that I hadn't fallen over. So, you know, just in that thing, I just wanted the situation to be done. So I laughed it off, even though even now, like you're talking 12, 13 years down the line, it still haunts me to this day. Um, so there's these things, and it's like, on face value, you think, well, that's not, he didn't hit me, he didn't do, you know, but that is abusive. That's taking your vulnerability and exploiting it to bully you with it, and that's not okay. And there's so many people in way worse situations than that, way worse thing, like being financially exploited, being physically abused, being told that they can't, um, you know, wear certain things, eat certain things, especially if they need help to prepare meals. Their diet is being controlled, what they watch on TV is being controlled, so many things, and it's just not okay. I mean, the fact, oh my god, I could talk about this so much, and I'm so passionate about it, and I don't even know ultimately what I want to say. But and then the other side of the coin is, when you then are brave and strong enough, and you say, look, I am being abused, I'm in an abusive relationship, and I need to get out, I need to get help. There is no help. There is no, I think there was one, the lady who was doing the documentary said that there was one, like, refuge, or yeah, refuge, I guess, women's refuge in the whole of England, um, that was specialised and was fully, like, accessible to disabled people, and they actually specialised for ladies with learning disabilities and like mental health problems. But it was like fully ramped and everything. One place in the whole of England. And I mean, thankfully I've never had to find out, but I would wager that there's nothing in Northern Ireland, or potentially nothing in the whole of Ireland. So then, if you are brave enough, like I say, and strong enough to speak out and say, I need help, I need to be rehoused, I need to be, you know, relocated, where do you go? Where do you go? And then add in, God forbid, kids into the mix as well. Like, where do you even start? Like, where is there? I mean, look at the fact that the hassle and the amount of non-response I've had trying to figure out a family holiday, and that's a happy thing. That, you know, should be run of the mill, you would think, an accessible family holiday for a family of five. Imagine trying to find a shelter or a refuge that would be accessible for me, or any disabled woman for that matter, and kids as well. Like, it just, the mind boggles, and it's something that needs to change, especially when you look at the fact that, as I say, disabled people, disabled women, are more likely to be abused than non-disabled people. So therefore, the resources need to be more. There was also a lady who was interviewed last night who was deaf, and she was, oh my god, her story was horrific. She was being abused, like physically, like choked by her partner, and she tried to ring the police, but because they didn't have any sign services, when she picked up the phone, obviously she couldn't speak, because and they, you know, she couldn't communicate with them. He then rang the police, realised what had happened, rang the police after her, managed to speak and say that she was the one that was abusing him. They came and arrested her, and she couldn't, the police didn't understand sign language, they had no way of communicating with her, so she couldn't get her side of the story across. She ended up being in a cell for 20 hours before they found someone who was able to sign and was able to communicate with her and realise what had happened. And she made a very, very, very sort of passing remark, but for me it was so poignant, was that by handcuffing a disabled person, you are literally taking away their ability to communicate. And that's something that all, like police, all the special services like police, ambulance, all those things, we all need to be more aware of, like, just because you have a disability does not mean you are any less likely to need those services. In fact, for many of the services, you're more likely to need them. And there needs to be way more awareness. And I don't mean just in terms of, like, I'm very fortunate to be an ambassador, and I'm so honoured to be an ambassador for Parallel and Purple Sock Day, which I'll talk about another time. And it's a lovely campaign about supporting disabled entrepreneurs. But, you know, the time for solidarity with disability, and the time for, you know, doing these acts of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? These acts of, like, you know, awareness and on. It's, I think there is a time and a place for them, absolutely, and it's important to do that. But it's about realising that disabled people are valid citizens, and important in the fabric of our world and our society, and our needs need to be met just the same as everybody else, and we deserve to feel safe and secure, and that if something horrible happens, that our needs will be met and we will be safe and heard and protected just the same as everybody else. I'm a taxpayer. You know, I pay my taxes, I pay my dues to society, I work, I provide services in my business and also in my full-time job. I have kids who are availing of services, and I need to be able to go to bed, and I deserve to be able to go to bed at night knowing that my contribution is seen and valued, but also that when I need, if a time comes in my life when I need support or my kids need support, that we will be taken care of. And it's in 2022 coming into 2023, it's a disgrace that we are even having these conversations. There's so many things being, like, rebuilt, and you know, so much money being ploughed into things, and to think that disabled access is still like an afterthought, or it's not built into the fabric of every decision of every business, is just a crying shame. And it's about time that we sat up and really started to take notice, and we're not paying lip service to this anymore. It's not about, you know, these grand gestures. It's about getting real and getting serious and realising that every citizen, whether they have a disability or not, are equally valued and deserve to be safe and deserve to be protected and looked after. And yeah, enough's enough, guys. Like I say, I don't even know. This has been bubbling in me for the last, I don't know, 12, 14 hours since I watched that programme, and I have to get it out. So I don't know what is going to come of this video, if anything at all, but it's time. We need to start this conversation, and we really need to start making changes. We really do. And I think the statistics the lady said on the programme last night, the government have pledged 1.5 million to make, like, refuges and like those types of services more accessible to people with disabilities. But 1.5 million in the grand scheme of things, considering there's one in the whole of England, potentially one in the whole of the UK, 1.5 million is a drop in the ocean. That's not going to make a jot of difference. It's just not. But if we started making access and accessibility part of every business decision, then it wouldn't need to be a big investment for accessible services. Accessible services would be standard, it would be part of our DNA as a society. And why not? Like, why not? Why not? If we're building a building, if we're building a shop, if we're building a hospital, if we're building a hotel, a holiday resort, whatever it is, make it bloody accessible. Not only are you massively opening up your target audience and your potential customer base, but you are making a big statement that everybody is value to you, and yeah, yeah, that's it. I think that's all I've got to say for now, guys. But listen, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all of you who are here. Um, as you can see, it's something I'm really passionate about. I don't know where the conversation needs to go, but I know the conversation needs to start. And it's times like this and how I feel right now that I know that this is why I got my MBE, and suddenly it feels very heavy. The MBE feels very heavy because I think it's as someone who has been given that honour, I feel very undeserving, but I also feel like it is a baton to affect change and to make the world a better place, make the world a more accessible place, and give decision makers a bit of cop on and a bit of a boot up the backside. So that is why I accepted the MBE, and as I say, suddenly it feels very heavy because I don't know where to start, but I know we have to start. So anybody watching here, I see Josh. Josh, you might need to go back to the start. But yeah, I think we all as a tribe need to work together to affect this change. And yeah, enough's enough. Enough's enough, guys. Thank you so much. Lots of love, and I will see you all very soon.